Hello, this is the Aussie Arrowhead. What you are watching is part of a research stream series about Buddhism. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the Wikipedia page, the Glossary of Buddhism, and the challenge I've set for myself is to work through each word here A to Z and see what I can learn. I guess just very briefly checking in about this project. I've learned that this page is a tremendous mess. I've spent a little bit of time tweaking it and helping do some edits. Nothing's been reverted yet, but I also I don't know if there's any sort of oversight of this page, if anyone's really paying it attention. I found through these videos I've been able to sort of get at a better understanding of what some of these terms mean. Some of the descriptions started off quite scant, but as I worked through the series, as I worked through each as I worked through each research stream, I was able to sort of uncover some resources and get to the bottom of it, and I've been having a good time. I've learned quite a bit. It's expanded my view of Buddhism quite a lot, and I'm going to keep going with this. So today we're going to look at this term. So Āgama. So the non-Mahayana divisions of the Sutra Pitaka, according to this description. So Sanskrit, Āgama, Pali, Āgama, but usually called Nikaya. So let's have a look where this links to. So this links to Nikaya, which has a page. Nikaya is a Pali word meaning volume. It is often used like the Sanskrit word Āgama to mean collection, assemblage, class, or group in both Pali and Sanskrit. So I think we're getting into the scholarly side of Buddhism here. We're talking about the scriptures. So that's Nikaya. But what I want to do is I want to search this word Āgama and just see what comes up. Because, lo and behold, there is another Wikipedia page for Āgama. Is this the same Āgama as this Āgama? So the non-Mahayana divisions of the Sutra Pitaka. Okay, so Āgama, Buddhism. In Buddhism and Āgama, so Tibetan, so the Sanskrit, Pali, so it means sacred work or scripture, is a collection of early Buddhist texts. Okay, so there is a whole page on that one. I will come back to that. The 5 Āgama together comprise the Sutta Pitaka of the early Buddhist schools, which had different recensions of each Āgama. I don't know what that word means. It is the practice of editing or revising a text based on critical analysis. Okay. So, in the Pali canon of the Theravada, the term Nikaya is used. The word Āgama does not occur in this collection. Okay, so, let's look at this for a moment. So from what I understand, what I know about the Buddhist canons is that we've got here we've got the Tripitaka. I'll see if I can get there through here. Where is it? Tripitaka. Okay, so the Tripitaka, or Tipitaka, means 3 baskets and refers to the main sacred scriptures of Buddhism, particularly the Pali Canon, in Theravada tradition, containing the Buddha's teachings. So the Sutta, monastic rules, Vinaya, and philosophical analysis, the Abhidharma. Alright, so I think this page, Buddhist canons, might illuminate things a little more. There are several Buddhist canons, which refers to the various scriptural collections of Buddhist sacred scriptures, or the various Buddhist scriptural canons. Some of these collections are called Tripitaka, or Tripitaka, meaning triple basket, so some of them. And this is a traditional term for the three main divisions, and I have learned that there are other divisions. I came across a website once which, it was in one of my earlier streams, where they divide the scripture by, I think it's either literary genre or form. So it would be sort of, poetry, and various forms like that. I was going to say novels, but that's not how it works. I've got to find it, but. A traditional term for the three main divisions of some ancient canons. In ancient India, there are several Buddhist scriptural canons that were organized into three main textual divisions: Vinaya, Sutra, and Abhidharma. So yeah, those three divisions. So if I open up Abhidharma here, let's see Abhidharma. If we go Abhidharma Pitaka. Oh, there we go. Third of three divisions. So I'm jumping all over the place here. And I'm looking for a page. That will be... is it that one there? It goes to the Theravada Pitaka. Now, I did not notice that this had its own page. Let's have a look. So, tab. Several Buddhist canons. So that was the Abhidharma. So if I type in Abhidharma Pitaka, it has its own page. So, wow. See, this is what I mean by this sort of glossary here is a fabulous mess. This started off, this Abhidharma Pitaka, actually, no, it was the Abhidharma page up here. That linked to that, the Theravada Abhidharma page. That linked to that. But as I worked through this, I realised that there had a separate page, the Abhidharma page. So I edited that in. Then the Abhidharma Pitaka page here, which linked to that. And I think that was fine, even though it was specifically Theravada that it was linking to. I did not know that there was a whole page for the Abhidharma Pitaka here. That should have probably been originally linked in there. So, but I'm getting a bit sidetracked. But I just want to give a sense of how, I guess, disorganized a lot of this is if you're working through Wikipedia and online resources. And I'm a believer in this project. I do love this. I feel if someone's made a start on some research, then someone can come in later and sort of clean it up, tidy it up, hopefully not have to revert everything because it is wrong. But this is just waiting for some scholar to come along and sort of fact check it. But it is, I don't know, some people don't like Wikipedia because anyone can edit it, and it's kind of pages like this which sort of help me understand why. But I digress. So we've come from, so we got all this sort of here, the Abhidharma Pitaka, the Theravada Abhidharma. What was this page here? So I'll close that one. We've got Nikaya, Āgama, Buddhist canons. We've got, that's open twice, I think. So, all right. I'm going to start here. I'm going to use this as a sort of basis for our research. I'm just trying to get a basic impression of what is being talked about here. So if I go there, and what does it say here? Let's have a look. So Abhidhamma Pitaka, the third basket of the Tripitaka canon. No, that's not what we're looking at. We're looking at, where is it? I've gone through all of these. Oh wow. Aditana, that was yesterday's one. Āgama. So the non-Mahayana divisions of the Sutra Pitaka. And I'm just going to put here Wikipedia. I'll go Wikipedia. Just so I know where I'm getting everything from. So, Āgama. Let's have a look. Āgama. So, we note here it says in Sanskrit, Āgama is Nikaya in Pali. So, we can write Sanskrit, Āgama, Pali, Nikaya. It can be both by the looks of it. Nikaya. This is usually called Nikaya. We can write sometimes Āgama. Alright, so this here, the non-Mahayana divisions. See, look, through all of this, we haven't read a lot of it. So let's start having a read. So we got Nikaya. And what I want to look for here is this idea that it's about non-Mahayana divisions, specifically. Alright, so if we read this, Nikaya is a Pali word meaning volume. It is often used, like the Sanskrit word Āgama, so it's Nikaya Āgama, to mean collection, assemblage, class, or group. So what have we got here? So Pali, there we go. This one here, Pali volume. Then we got Āgama. To mean collection, assemblage, class, or group. And it says often used like Āgama. Like Āgama. So there's numerous usages of this by the sound of it, and it is most commonly used in reference to the Pali Buddhist texts of the Tripitaka, namely those found in the Sutta Pitaka. So, where is it? Nikaya. So this is the Wikipedia Nikaya page. I don't know if that's going to come up properly. That's alright. Notepad scrambles some symbols. So, will that work? I'm just going to check. It worked. Very good. So, okay, often used, so we're talking about volume, collection, assemblage, class, or group. We're talking about scriptures and books here. But here it says, it is most commonly used in reference to the Pali Buddhist texts of the Tripitaka, namely those found in the Sutta Pitaka. Now, Pali. I want to know, was which one, was Sanskrit Pali or was Sanskrit Mahayana? So I'm just going to type this in, see, Pali and where is it? Sanskrit. So if I type this in, is it going to illuminate me? Okay, so the Theravada tradition uses Pali, right? So Talking about Pali is generally Theravadan. Pali is generally Theravadan. So, try this. Okay, so Pali is generally Theravadan. Pali texts represent the early oral tradition. Mahayana adopted Sanskrit to reach broader, educated, and northern Indian audiences. Now, where is this coming from? Buddhism, Stack Exchange, Reddit, Quora. Okay, so right away, and there's a few pages here. You got the Mahayana Sutras. The Conversation. That's usually a pretty good website. I might click on that one. All right, so yeah, you've got to take the AI with a grain of salt. But what have I got here? Pali texts represent the early oral traditions. So from what I understand, when we're talking about let's have a look, the sutras. So these are aphoristic condensed manuals or collections of spiritual teachings, philosophy and wisdom in Hinduism, Buddhism and Jainism. So, alright, so I think this is generally a Mahayana thing. Numerous significant or influential Mahayana texts, such as the Platform Sutra and the Lotus Sutra, are termed sutras despite being attributed to much later authors. Citation needed. So that's not too helpful. But let's go to, where is it? Āgama. Yeah, Abhidhamma Pitaka. It's the third of the three divisions. Where are the divisions? Oh, if I just go to the Vinaya and the Sutta. So, yeah, you've got three baskets. These are the Vinaya, the Sutta, and the Abhidhamma. So the Sutta is the second of the three divisions. So the definitive canonical collection of scripture of Theravada Buddhism. Alright, so the Sutta Pitaka is Theravada. So I think we're talking, this is the Pali canon. I think we're talking about Pali, the Pali canon. So okay, so let's have here Sutra. Yeah, they're used by Mahayana. I think all of the Buddhist schools draw from these scriptures. Some only look at the sutras. Some use the Abhidhamma. And where are we here? Pali Sutta. Okay, so we're talking about Pali Buddhist texts of the Tripitaka, namely those found in the Sutta Pitaka. So that's quite specific. That is a section of this. I don't know if that means it's non-Mahayana texts. See, what I'm looking for here, and why I'm sort of talking about this, is that it's said here on Wikipedia, it's the non-Mahayana divisions of the Sutra Pitaka. But if we look at the Sutta Pitaka, the second of three divisions, the definitive canonical collection of scripture of Theravada Buddhism. So if you see here, the non-Mahayana divisions of the Sutra Pitaka. But if the Sutra Pitaka is defined as this, the definitive canonical collection of scripture of Theravada Buddhism, I'm not sure that makes any sense. They seem to contradict one another. So we got the non-Mahayana divisions. All right, so that means that the bits of the Sutra Pitaka which are Theravadan. But this definition over here is telling us that the Sutta Pitaka is the definitive canonical collection of scripture of Theravada Buddhism. So why is non-Mahayana divisions important here? And is there any sort of... I'm going to see if there's anything about Mahayana written here. So, and I might be typing it without its diacritics. So, alright, so this has left me with a question. And the question is, okay, is the Āgama, I don't know if it's capitalised, but I'll leave it there because the diacritic's there and it looks cool. Is the Āgama to do with Theravada or Mahayana scriptures? I don't think this is a well-formed question yet, but let's have a look at it. Is the Āgama to do with Theravada or Mahayana questions? Well, actually, no, not the Āgama. Is the Sutra Pitaka to do with Theravada or Mahayana scriptures? Right, because this here says that it's... Where is it? I'll come back to that other page soon. Yeah. So, the definitive canonical collection of scripture of Theravada Buddhism. We're talking about the Pali Tripitaka. Now, my guess is that there are other canons that this here, the Āgama, may be a part of. Alright, that is my second question. Is the Āgama part of a canon separate from the Pali canon? So is the Āgama part of a canon separate from the Pali canon? There's a couple of leads there. But what I might do is I'm going to move on to this other page, because there's a whole other page of Āgama here. An actual... Yeah, and this one actually says Āgama Buddhism, not Nikaya. In Buddhism, an Āgama, for sacred work or scripture, is a collection of early Buddhist texts. Okay, so right away we can see... where did that one come from? That one came from, sorry, I'm just tidying up here. We'll pop that there. We'll go Wikipedia. Definitive collection of... So if we go to this Āgama page, it just says it's a collection of early Buddhist texts. And if we know, there's a page here that sends us to. So we'll go over here. And yeah, we're talking about early Buddhist texts. I think we're talking about Theravada. There might be texts that come before that. Sort of, I guess, pre-Theravadan Buddhism. Is there such a thing? So I'm gonna look that up too. Is there pre-Theravadan Buddhist text? So is there? I need some agreement, so I'm going to put are. Are there pre-Theravadan Buddhist texts? And I'll actually, just to make it a bit more proper, I'll write scriptures. So an Āgama on this page just is a collection of early Buddhist texts. Okay, so the 5 Āgama. So we got a division here. The 5 Āgama together comprise the Sutta Pitaka, and look, here we are again, back to the Sutta Pitaka of the early Buddhist schools. Okay, this might have answered my question just then, which had different recensions of each Āgama, so different ways of of editing and revising and doing critical analysis by the looks of it. So in the Theravada, the term Nikaya is used. Okay, so there's that crucial distinction there, and I've probably gotten a bit lost because I'm not observing that distinction. So Theravada, we have Nikaya. So, yeah, all right. So this is Theravada. It's part of a series on Theravadan Buddhism. Āgama here is early Buddhist schools. Collection of early Buddhist texts. Okay, that's starting to make a bit more sense. So let's go Āgama, the non-Mahayana divisions of the Sutra Pitaka. So I'm thinking a better definition here, or at least a working definition, would be sort of the early Buddhist schools. So I would emphasise that more. I'll sort of try and draft something up a bit later, but no, I don't want to. This isn't wrong. This isn't wrong. It sounds like the non-Mahayana divisions of the Sutra Pitaka, but where I'm getting confused is it says non-Mahayana, but it's Theravadan. The Theravada is the sort of focus here. So, where was I? Was it that one? Yeah. Okay, so we'll go there. Āgama, early Buddhist texts. So was any of this Mahayana, right? Because it's just saying it's not, or at least in the Pali canon of the Theravada, they use Nikaya. So, are you following me? Because I am not following this at all. But in the 4th century, Mahayana Abhidhamma work refers to collections. Yeah, okay, there are references to Mahayana in here. But I think this sort of focus on early Buddhist schools is really quite crucial. So let's have a look at this sort of big mess I've made here. So we got Āgama, Pali, volume, often used like Āgama, collection. Pali is generally Theravadan. Pali texts represent the early oral tradition. Is that the early Buddhist texts? Early Buddhist schools. It is most commonly used in reference to the Pali Buddhist texts of the Tripitaka, namely those found in the Sutta Pitaka. Alright, so I'm going to go with this one here. It seems a little bit more straightforward. That doesn't mean it's right or accurate, but it's something. So Āgama. Yep. Āgama is a collection of early Buddhist texts. Okay, so not only that, there's the 5 Āgama together comprise the Sutta Pitaka of the early Buddhist schools. So I'm thinking what I would love to see is some kind of map which details sort of the development of the Tripitaka over time and each basket within it. Because I think a lot of this on Wikipedia is Theravada oriented. So how can we track the development of the Tripitaka over time? And I'm sure even scholars have probably agonized over this question. It's not easy, and I doubt there's a lot of information online about it. But I'm going to put this in here, and yeah, so here we are, flying through the dark, trying to piece together some kind of reason. And yeah, look, if anyone's watching this and you've got more information that I'm missing, yeah, please leave a comment below. I'll be very interested to try and get to the bottom of this. But yeah, that's why I like doing this. I like doing these research streams. It's like a mystery. You're uncovering a mystery, trying to work towards a better understanding. So, but yeah, so what we know, it's talking about the Sutta Pitaka. Yeah, the Sutta Pitaka, Sutra Pitaka. Yeah, that keeps coming up. So, okay, so Āgama, sort of connected to the Sutra Pitaka. So Āgama is connected to the Sutra Pitaka. It refers to early Buddhist texts. It refers to 5 Āgamas, which comprise the Sutta Pitaka of the early Buddhist schools. It is used in reference to Pali Buddhist texts of the Tripitaka. Now, Pali is Theravadan. So, just going to double check that. Pali, Theravada. So, I get tripped up on that sometimes. Yeah. So, it relies on the Pali canon. So, non-Mahayana divisions, definitive canonical collection of scriptures of Theravada Buddhism. Alright, so I've got 4 questions here. And before I go into those, I'm going to look at some other resources. So, yeah, I'm trying not to rely on Wikipedia too much here. And I had this article that was linked by the AI. Let's see if I can find the term Āgama in here anywhere. Or Tripitaka. No. I'll just skim through it, see if there's any sort of references to scholarship. No, it's just a very basic sort of overview of what Mahayana Buddhism is. So I don't know if that AI was very reliable. Sutta Pitaka, let's close. No, I don't want to close these. I feel I need to keep them open. So I'm just going to scroll everything up just so I can more easily Sutta Pitaka. Didn't I just have that? I think I did. Yeah, that's there twice. Alright, so let's try this. Let's just Google it, see what comes up. Āgama. Alright. So you've got Āgama in the sense of, sorry, there's a Hindu concept of Āgama as well. So these are a collection of several tantric literature and scriptures of Hindu schools. So if we're talking about pre-Buddhism, if we're talking about early Buddhism, there is a relationship with Hinduism through the Vedic scriptures generally. There might be some overlap. So is there any overlap between the Hindu and Buddhist Āgamas? Is it Āgamas plural? I don't know. Āgamas. Alright, I'll go Āgamas. Alright, so I'm getting quite a few questions here. So there's that. Let's have a look here. Āgama, 60 definitions, Wisdom Library. I've learned that this site can be a little unreliable sometimes, just because I looked at an academic paper on a term the other day and it sort of went in a whole other direction, explaining a concept. I think that was the sutra about the stupas. I can't remember the name of it. Alright, Shaivism, Shaiva. Where are we? What are we looking at? Āgama. Revelation and sacred scripture in Tamil. Āgamas represent an independent class of writing by very early seers who had inward experience and enlightenment from the Supreme Being and were perhaps influenced by the Vedas in their original form. Okay, they had not realised in their lives and thoughts the general truths taught by the early Upanishads. So, yeah, okay, we're talking, this is all Hinduism. Is there a Buddhist section here? Shaktism, Vaishnavism, Vaishnava, okay. Āgama, augment, it's quite a lot here. I'm not sure I'm ready to try and pass all this. So just let me skim through it a bit. And this doesn't seem that well organized. Some of this Nirukta, Shaiva, Yoga. I might just search Buddhism, see if that comes up. It means, yeah, it's a term that means something across many, well, not just schools, but schools of Buddhism, but also other religions entirely, and yeah, in different languages and Hindi. Okay, so Āgama connected to the Sutta Pitaka. Sutta Pitaka means something in Buddhism, Pali. So yeah, there's all this here. It means something in all of these. So sort of really tunneling down a definition on this is quite tricky. So I might go back to Google. Āgama, an old world lizard with a large head and a long tail, typically showing a marked difference in colour and form between the sexes. Great. Okay, what is Āgama in Buddhism? That just links me to the page. Collection of discourses. Very good. Sutta Central. So here's another site. Āgama, New Concise Pali, masculine, coming, approach, exit. This might be how we literally translate it. Tradition, yeah, a Nikaya. So a canonical text, a Nikaya. So we'll go, I'll actually take that one. So tradition. What's that one there? The Sutta Central. Sutta Central. So go there. Very good. So it says, yeah, it's just a scripture. Coming, approach, that which one goes by, resource, reference, source, or reference, text, scripture, canon, or of the 4 Nikayas. So we got 4 Nikayas here. And there's 5 Āgamas. So, alright. So you got 4 Nikayas and 5 Āgamas. So there's one of my questions. What are the 4 Nikayas and what are the 5 Āgamas? And once again, yeah, this is a term that seems to stretch across many sort of disciplines and has many different meanings. So looks like I'm going to end up in a very sort of confused hodgepodge of a place here, trying to sort of get to this. But I will try and stick to Buddhism. So we've got Sutta, Central, Āgama, meaning, understanding, repayment of a debt. So there's other meanings. All right. Let's have a look here. So Āgama and Anga in the early Buddhist oral traditions. All right. So is this a scholarly research paper that's going to save my bacon here, just like the last video this happened in? Oh, here we go. So in this paper, I explore the significance of the set of 9 or 12 angas of texts as reflected in early Buddhist discourse literature, and in relation to division of texts into Āgamas or Nikayas. Okay, so this was written by Anileo from the Numata Center for Buddhist Studies in Hamburg. Okay, I'm going to have a look through this one, and I think there's probably going to be some information in there that's useful. Alright, so we've got Grokkopedia. Now, I'm kind of hesitant to use this site because I dislike Elon Musk, but I've got to say there is some interesting stuff to be found on here. And look, we found Āgama, and there's a whole page here. And look, if you've seen this sort of dearth of information that we've looked at already, look at this. This is huge. This is a big article. Now, and it's got a lot of references. His AI has put it all together, and yeah, I don't know what Grok's fact checking process looks like, but what I found reading some of these articles, and I guess what I've found with AI in general, is that uh, they seem to resist the sort of desires of their creators to tweak them to produce certain responses. Now, there's a lot of criticisms of Grok, but what I found reading some of these articles is they actually do come across as quite neutral. Um, I don't, I cannot say if this is going to become something that's bigger and better than Wikipedia, but the technology here is very interesting. And yeah, let's have a look at this. I don't know what this is going to tell me. So in Buddhism, the Agamas, meaning transmission or heritage, refers to the foundational collections of early Buddhist scriptures comprising discourses, sutras. So foundational collections of early Buddhist scriptures comprising discourses, sutras attributed to the Buddha and his immediate disciples, serving as the core doctrinal text for non-Mahayana Buddhist schools. Right. So I'm thinking, is that the one? The Hamburg.de? Yeah. So it's found this. It has found this paper, and it is probably summarizing what is inside here. I'm going to have a read of it myself. These texts, originally transmitted orally, were systematically compiled shortly after the Buddha's parinirvana. I believe that is his death. Is that right? I'm just going to check that one. Yep, final nirvana, nirvana after death. So the Buddha died in the 5th century BC. Okay, so they were divided into 4 principal collections to facilitate memorization and recitation by specialized reciters. So, yeah, this is all coming from that paper. Unlike later Mahayana sutras, which emphasize concepts like emptiness, Sunyata Bodhisattva Agamas focus on practical teachings for liberation, including the Four Noble Truths, dependent origination, and ethical precept. Alright, so there's a very lengthy article, and nearly all of the references I've looked at so far come back to this academic paper that is available online. So that's interesting. Now, look, as far as encyclopedias go, I'm not against using this as long as we fact check it. Because honestly, looking through this here, it is a mess. Right, it's not perfect. So Wikipedia is not perfect. Any sort of website is going to have its biases, but we're looking at the Buddha sections on here, and just what I'm seeing is this is just generating stuff the same way that Google Gemini is sort of, the AI overview is sort of generating things. It's just a little bit more advanced. And there's also some references on here, which is kind of cool. Now, yeah, alright. So, let's have a look. Hamburg, Āgama, anger. 2. There's a lot here. Let's go. Let's just click through some references, see what I find. Okay, Āgama Research Group 404. Wonderful. So there's an Encyclopedia of Buddhism. I've seen that one. Is there an Āgama page on here? So it's an Āgama. So let's click that one. Āgama's Encyclopedia of Buddhism. The Āgamas, or the 5 Āgamas, refer to a collection of discourses from early Buddhist schools, which are preserved primarily in Chinese translation. Alright, so now do you see how sort of tricky it is to kind of piece this together, because we got this Chinese translation aspect now. So not once has any of these said anything about China. So this is why you got to look at a bunch of different sources. And this one's not necessarily right just because there's a wiki that says Encyclopedia of Buddhism on it. Are there references on this page? There's some external links, there's a bibliography, sources, but they're not really linked to, well, that quote is linked. But this first paragraph here isn't it? Or maybe if you go through here, it'll explain it all more. But yeah, all right. So Āgama, Buddhism. So let's go with that for a moment. So one thing I like about this here is that it is self-correcting, and I would hope that it self-corrects in a way that is free of partisanship and bias, but we will see. I can only imagine what sort of stuff you see on here if you look up, I don't know, the history of communism, for example. Maybe more recent sort of events such as the shooting of Rene Good. I don't know. I'm not going to look those up right now, but I'm going to use this as a resource. So that is the Grokkpedia article, and what I've learned is that I believe Musk is planning on renaming this the Encyclopedia Galactica. So this isn't forever. So Grok, for those who don't know, is from the science fiction novel A Stranger in a Strange Land by Robert Heinlein. So in that story, I think, what is it, the sort of alien man comes to Earth and sort of, sort of fascinates himself with our strange customs, and I think he uses the word grok to say he understands something, to say he fully comprehends. So, and it's kind of a cool word. The Encyclopedia Galactica is from Isaac Asimov's Foundation series, which is, it's supposed to be a repository of all human knowledge. And look, whatever you think about Musk, and I think, yeah, it is interesting the technology that he is producing. I don't know whether it's going to be a social good or not in the end, but I'm happy to sort of engage with it and see what I can learn from it. This is going to start coming up in Google searches very soon. Whether or not it replaces Wikipedia as the sort of go-to resource, who can say? But I digress. I've gone on a little bit of a rant here, I think. But so, I tend to want to keep these videos as sort of free from my personal opinions as possible, at least the research streams, because I'm trying to understand what this term Āgama means. And just if I were to just say that I think the sort of informational environment online is a bit concerning, to say the least. I think it is a little concerning, to say the least. But all right. So end digression. Āgamas, 5 Āgamas, right? Preserved in Chinese translation. They talk about this, talk about that. So let's have a look here. Āgama and Anga in the early Buddhist oral tradition. What is Anga? Let's have a look. Well, I'm sure the page would... I'm sure the PDF is going to explain it. A limb, body part, member or constituent element of a whole, so sort of means part. I'm going to read the article. Where are we? Āgama and Anga in the early Buddhist oral tradition. Analeo. In this paper, I explore the significance of the set of 9 or 12 angas of texts as reflected in early Buddhist discourse literature and in relation to division of texts into agamas or nikayas. Okay, so keywords. The term agama in the singular, used in the singular, occurs in the Pali discourses, often qualifying a learned monk to be an agatagama, literally one who has obtained the agama. Okay, so yeah, so the term agama in the singular. Go there, connected to, okay, and I'm going to call this let's call it the, alright, because that's a PDF. Yep, let's get this organized again. This back up the top, and I might put a bit of space between each section. What is it? Maybe 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Okay, so in Buddhism, the Agamas refer to the foundational collections of early Buddhist scriptures comprising discourses attributed to the Buddha and his immediate disciples, serving as core doctrinal texts for non-Mahayana Buddhist schools. Is that supported here? Because I think that's what it was referencing. So we go back to that Wikipedia page. Yeah, so that was the link. Core doctrinal text for Mahayana Buddhist schools. Alright, so we go here, Agamas. So Chinese. Okay, so that's in the singular. Lots of references. Okay, so I'm just going to skim through this. The 4 Agamas. Accounts of the first sanctity in the Dharmaguptaka, Haimavata. Yeah, all those employ the plural form Agamas in the description of the compilation of teachings that, according to tradition, took place under the leadership of Mahakassapa, soon after Buddha's demise. Alright, so the division corresponds to the 4 Agamas, which comprise a Dirti Agama containing mostly long discourses, a Madhyamagama that assembles predominantly middle-length discourses. Okay, another one, discourses that share a common topic, follow an incremental numerical principle. Okay, so we go there. I'm going to put that in here. So, what are the 4 Nikayas and the 5 Agamas? So, well, it says the 5 Agamas. I got that off one of those websites. It might have been that Wisdom. Is it Wisdom Library? Okay, 4 Nikayas, 5 Agamas, 4 Agamas. So, I'm guessing that these are probably the same, but there might be other. Yeah, there might be more information I'm lacking here. So, go go up there. Okay. So got 3. Alright. So now the reason I'm using Notepad here is because I can get a sort of I can get a half screen here of text. It comes at the sort of sacrifice of being able to put anything in bold. Oh, no, actually, I didn't know that Notepad had these features. That's, yeah, okay, that's cool. So I might start bolding things. Can you underline? I don't know. You can even put a table in there. That is interesting. I never knew. Wow, a table in Notepad. How far we have come. Yeah, all right. So, Āgama. All right, so we'll, at the sacrifice of some of the tools that you can use in Microsoft Word for it. That's what I was getting at there. But no, if it's got that, that's pretty good. You can organise things. I don't know if you can increase the size of the font. What if you go... Oh, wow. Okay, you can. Yeah, I didn't know Notepad had these features. So I've been using it for years, and I think these weren't there a long time ago. So I've just assumed that they're not there. But yeah, okay, well, there you go. I learned something in here. Yeah. See what happens when you pay attention? Alright, so 4 Āgamas, and this is quite dense. There's a lot here. There's a lot here. But I think we've answered pretty much our main question. I just want to... Transmission, is that word there? Because it means transmission or heritage. Serving as core doctrinal texts for non-Mahayana schools. Let's have a look. 4 Āgamas. Then there's the 9 Angas. Function of the 9. Okay, so it's going other places here. Is there a basic... one who has attained the Āgama. Alright, that's what an Agata Gama is. So... learned elders, one would approach to receive clarifications regarding the teachings given by the Buddha. Okay, so most of these references occur in discourses in the Anguttaranaka, of which no parallels have been preserved. These are lost texts. Buddhist scriptures collection. It says parallels. I'm not sure what it means by parallels. 4th of the 5th Nikayas, or collections, in the Sutta Pitaka. Okay. I'm thinking that Nikayas is probably a subdivision of the sutras. I'm only thinking that. Is there a way I can sort of tease that out? Because I think there was a map somewhere. It might be the Buddhist canons. No. So let's have a look here. That's a Tripitaka manuscript there, and wow, that is beautiful. What does that do? That folds out, I believe, and there's a box that goes in. So that's on gold plates. Okay, so I'm looking for this map. Where is this map? What is this here? Tibetan Buddhist Tripitaka. Now that looks like an art installation. Is that a different sort of meaning? I don't want to get too sidetracked here. That's in Tibetan Buddhism. So I'm going to close that. Sutra. Yeah. Let's try, is it the Āgama Dharma? Sorry, no, not the Āgama Dharma. There's a lot of very similar sounding terms here, but that one, yeah, very good. I'm looking for this map. So let's try this. Sutra map. Is there anything like this? Oh, no, I don't think it's getting me anywhere. Sutra map. What is yoga? Nah. Bit of a lost cause, that one. Yeah, wow. Okay, so where was that? The free baskets. Was it Tripitaka page? Let's open that one. Actually, Buddhist canons. Didn't I already open that? I did. There's the triple basket. Let's try the Abhidhamma Pitaka, Pali Tripitaka, Pali Canon. This is what I'm looking for. Now, what is this? I don't know what this is. So we got the Tripitaka and the Vinaya, Sutra, the Abhidhamma. So the scholarly texts, the sutras, and the sort of rules and disciplines of the monks. I wanted to know what these words are. They seem to be subdivisions. Sutta Nipata. So what am I looking for here? That's the Sutta Pitaka. Is there anything about Agamas here? I don't know if there is. Kudakanaya, Kanakaya, Kudakanakaya. Alright, so that's not very helpful here. But what I'm looking for is some sort of a map which teaches me sort of where these texts fit in the great sort of scheme of things. So let's close that one. And actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to close all of these. All of them. And this is one of those streams where I think I'm just going to have to content myself with what I've learned so far. See if I can sort of do a very basic overview or a summary. So we've got the Āgama. So let's go back to the glossary. Āgama, the non-Mahayana divisions of the Sutra Pitaka. Right, Sanskrit, Āgama, Nikaya, sometimes Āgama. Right, there's some definitions there. So I think the best sort of overview comes from, I guess, Grokkopedia's summary of that PDF we found. I don't know if this was in there. I haven't checked it properly, but it says the Āgamas refer to foundational collections of early Buddhist scriptures comprising discourses, sutras, attributed to the Buddha and his immediate disciples, serving as core doctrinal texts for non-Mahayana Buddhist schools. Okay, so foundational collections. It's sort of this idea of early Buddhism. And it's non-Mahayana. We're talking about Theravada here. Right. So the term Āgama, so we got this from the PDF. The term Āgama used in the singular occurs in the Pali discourses, often qualifying a learned monk to be a Agatagama, literally one who has attained the Āgama. And there's, so someone who has, I guess, knows those texts, connected to the Sutra Pitaka, so the Sutra Pitaka, the second basket of Buddhism, all of the sutras, when we're talking about the Buddhist scriptures, the second basket of the Buddhist scriptures. Okay, Āgama is a section of these. It's a section of these, usually pertaining to the sort of older traditions. So pre-Buddhism, or is it pre-Buddhism? Or the early Buddhist schools, probably when they were all... Actually, I better have a look at that, because there was that article I wanted to read. Where is it? So, there, the early Buddhist texts. This one here. Early Buddhist texts, EBTs, early Buddhist literature or early Buddhist discourses are parallel texts shared by the early Buddhist schools. The most widely studied EBT material are the first four Pali Nikayas, as well as the corresponding Chinese Āgamas. So here we go. Early Buddhist texts. And I think we could have probably saved ourselves a lot of bother just looking at that article there. We can write, these are about early Buddhist texts. And there's quite a few sources there from books. Right, Foundations of Buddhism. Actually, I'm going to put that in here. So, early Buddhist texts. the most widely studied EBT material are the first 4 Pali Nikayas, as well as the corresponding Chinese Agamas. So we got this question down here. It was about what are the 4 Nikayas and the 5 Agamas. So Agamas are Chinese. Is that a Chinese? So let's try. Alright, meaning it's in Sanskrit. Were also preserved primarily in Chinese translation. Okay, so yeah, I feel like a little bit of wisdom is starting to dawn on me here. Okay, so Agamas were written and preserved in the Chinese, or in Chinese. Does that sound right? I don't know. So, okay, there we go. Alright, so the Āgama are early Buddhist texts, and the most widely studied early Buddhist text material are the 4 Pali Nikayas and the Agamas. These are foundational texts. These are just terms for texts within the Sutra Pitaka that are early Buddhist schools. These aren't Theravadan or Mahayanan by the looks of it, but that I'm not too sure of. So, alright, I will continue. Sort of, as I'm going through the summary here, I'm tweaking it a bit. Agamas refer to foundational collections of early Buddhist scriptures comprising discourses attributed to the Buddha and his immediate disciples. Foundational, serving as core doctrinal texts for non-Mahayana Buddhist schools. That was the Grokkapedia again. Term Āgama uses in sync. Yeah, already looked at that. An Āgama is a collection of early Buddhist texts. Yes, that is correct. The 5 Āgama together comprise the Sutta Pitaka of the early Buddhist schools, which had different recensions of each Āgama, and the recensions was, I think that was interpreting, analysing, was it translating? So it talks about 5 Āgama here. So once again, Chinese Āgamas. Are there 5? I think there are 5 Chinese Āgamas. What about down here? It said the 4 Nikayas and the 5 Āgamas, but yeah, I remember when we looked it up in that PDF file, it says the 4 Āgamas here. 4 Āgamas. So, I don't know. 5 Āgamas, 4 Āgamas, I don't know how many there are. Then, okay, so we'll go through here. Āgama is a collection of early Buddhist texts. Tripitaka, okay. The definitive canonical collection of scripture in Theravada Buddhism. That's what we're talking about, the Sutta Pitaka. So, but I don't think it's even Theravada. We're talking about early Buddhist schools, right? So, let's have a look. Are these Theravadan? I don't know. There are EBTs from various Buddhist schools, especially from Theravada. Okay, so, well, we know Theravada's the oldest, but then there's the Savastivada schools, one of the early Buddhist schools, but also from the Dharma-guptaka, Mahasanghika, the Mahisasaka, and the Mulosava Stitavada, and other texts of uncertain prominence. Okay, so, alright, we're sort of getting a picture here. Theravada was part of the early Buddhist texts. It's not even pre-Buddhism, I think. That was one of my questions. I'll get to that in a moment. So, yeah, I feel like I'm getting a better sort of breakdown here. It took me a little while to get there, but Pali Buddhist texts. Okay, so we've gone through all of that. And yeah, so the articles that we looked at, the Wikipedia articles, I don't think they're wrong. They're just written in a way that isn't clear enough for my liking. That doesn't mean that I advise we should sort of take them down and rewrite them or anything. I'm not in a position to do that. I also don't know if I have sort of comprehended everything correctly here. But yeah, we got the Āgama. So let's go. I'm going to start answering my questions, and perhaps this will be a test to see what I've learned. If I look them up again, it's because I've sort of forgotten in the big jumble of detail that we have here. Is the Sutra Pitaka to do with Theravada or Mahayana scriptures? Okay, it's to do... Well, actually, no, we're talking about the Sutra Pitaka. Right, that's the second basket of Buddhist scriptures. And it's the one to do with the sutras. And it's got more than 10,000 sutras in it. Right? So, second of the three divisions of the Pali Tripitaka. And Pali is generally recognised as Theravada. So, it is Theravada. Does Mahayana use the Pali canon? Because I'm sure it doesn't completely exempt itself from it. Sure it doesn't. So according to this, Mahayana Buddhism generally considers the Pali canon to be authentic and valid, but it does not use it exclusively. While Mahayana includes these early teachings, it relies on a broader separate body of literature known as the Mahayana Sutras. Okay, so I've got the Mahayana Sutras. Alright. Mahayana uses it, but also uses the Mahayana Sutras. Is the Āgama part of a canon separate from the Pali canon? Now, I don't know if that's a good question. I'll just punch it in the AI, see what it says. Yes, the Āgamas belong to a different canon of scripture than the Pali canon. While they are early Buddhist texts that share the foundational pre-sectarian doctrine, they belong to different separate collection of texts and originate from different early schools. So, alright, here we go. More. We've got Chinese Āgamas. So, Theravada school uses the Pali canon, where the 5 collections of discourses are termed Nikayas. Alright. So, Nikayas. Āgamas are the Northern Sanskrit. They're collections of discourses that were preserved in Chinese translation. So, I guess I've got to think of Pali as kind of like a language canon, because it is. It's preserved in the Pali language. The Āgamas are outside of that. The Āgamas are Chinese, or at least they're preserved in the Chinese. They are different recensions of the same material, editions and arrangements. So, core teachings are uniform, specific content, organisation, number differs significantly. Right on. So, okay, so Āgama part of a canon separate from the Pali canon. Yes, it is. So, think of Pali as a language group. Āgamas was preserved in Chinese. So is it the Āgamas? I think that's probably better. The Āgamas were preserved in Chinese. Are there pre-Theravadan Buddhist scriptures? Now, I think we already see there are early Buddhist schools. So these are the early Buddhist texts, the EBTs or pre-sectarian texts. But it said in that article that Theravada was included in there. Theravada is the oldest school. So I guess, look, these things don't happen in a vacuum. The Theravadan school had to come from somewhere, and there would have been sort of people writing and thinking about things before this. Or it also mentioned an oral tradition, so yeah, it's very likely. I think it even said in that article the early Buddhist texts these were oral in nature. So you've got the first four Pali Nikayas, corresponding Chinese Agamas, and some Vinaya material. What is the reference here? Okay, so Buddhist texts. I won't even go to that page. Key early texts, shared canon. Alright. Buddhist texts are religious texts that belong to or are associated with Buddhism and its traditions. There is no single textual collection for all of Buddhism. So, alright, I like this because it's not just talking about the canons, it's talking about all of it. Instead, there are three main Buddhist canons: the Pali Canon, Chinese Buddhist Canon, and the Tibetan Buddhist Canon. That is a good, helpful article. Now, let's go back to here. They're pre-Theravadan Buddhist scriptures. We can say, yes. Let's go the early Buddhist texts. Yep. So there are a lot of EBT materials. Some Theravadan. How can we track the development of the Tripitaka over time? So let's try this, see what the AI coughs up. I actually really like this for these questions. So how can we track the development of the Tripitaka over time? It involves analysing its transition from an oral tradition to written multi-language canons through a combination of philology, historical records, and manuscript analysis. So I do not have any sort of access to the materials we need to do that. And I'm sure there's books out there that are written, but just for our purposes, there's the Pali Canon, there's other canons, and there's sort of pre-Buddhist materials. I might try and draft up something like a map myself, but yeah. Alright, so this is a multifaceted thing, but I think we understand that there were early Buddhist texts. So the Āgama are early Buddhist texts that were written in Chinese. So that's what I think is missing here on this glossary page. It needs to mention that these were in Chinese and that they are the counterpart of the Nikaya. So right away, when you click on this, it takes you straight to the Nikaya, which is a little bit confusing. Maybe if you read through that page fully, as I've only skimmed through bits of it, you will come across a sort of contrast between the two. And I think even in that first paragraph it sort of mentioned it. But yeah. But it also does not mention early Buddhist texts at all. So Āgama, how would I put this? Āgama are sort of a category of early Buddhist texts, and in contrast, it's sort of, where is it? The first four Pali Nikayas and the corresponding Chinese Āgamas. So, yeah, I'll come up with something later. I think I might tweak this and update it, just because I do think this is cool. I want this to improve. Just even that last one there, the Aditana. So that was it was all circling around the concept of will, I believe. So decision, resolution, will, all that. But I don't want to mess with this too much. I think that's fine. If you click on that, you'll get a sense of it. This here, not only does that sort of lack certain detail, when you click on Āgama, it just goes straight to Nikaya, when there is an Āgama page. So I think even this needs tweaking, but I'm sort of, that wasn't my intention starting this project, to become a Wikipedia editor. That's not my job here, but I do find that, yeah, doing these sort of deep dives through research streams is sort of revealing things about sort of information online for me. I'm seeing that Wikipedia isn't always reliable. Like, I've known this, but you got to look at a range of sources, and really the gold standard should be the sort of academic scholarship or the monastic sort of work that gets done. If you're really serious about studying Buddhism, do not follow me. Go find a monk who studies it. Right? I'm just trying to sort of augment my own understanding. And, when I encounter an opportunity to talk about this with someone who is knowledgeable and knows things, I can ask them better informed questions. So I'm not doing this to become an expert in Buddhism. It's kind of like a special interest for me. But I want to sort of get into the sort of all of the sort of doctrinal and scriptural stuff. I want to be able to sort of understand where it's all coming from, how it all sort of fits into this sort of global picture, I guess. And I think it's really cool that there's early Buddhist texts we can find. I'd like to read some of them. I'm sure there's a compilation out there, like a bigger book that you can get that is an omnibus or, sort of collects a bunch of them. So how can we track the development of Tripitaka over time? So coming back to our questions, first of all, we will note that it moved from an oral tradition to multiple written canons of texts. So we'll just start from that. And then, if you want to go deep into that, you'd learn about the manuscripts, you'd learn about this and that. Is there any overlap between the Hindu and Buddhist Āgamas? Now, I'm thinking there might be. So this will probably say yes. There is a significant but complex overlap between the Hindu or Buddhist Āgamas or Tantras. Now, this is throwing a curveball in here. Why is it calling an Āgama a Tantra? What is a Tantra? I only know of, where is it? Tantra, let's have a look. Any systematic, broadly applicable text, theory, system, method, instrument, technique, or practice. Okay, so esoteric yoga tradition, I don't know about the use of it here. I have not seen this word Tantra come up in any of the other resources we've looked at yet, but doesn't mean there's not a relationship. Okay, so there's terms of shared terminology, ritual practices, spiritual technology. Hindu Āgamas focusing on worship of a supreme being. Now, where is this coming from? So once again, Reddit, Wikipedia, Study Smarter UK. This doesn't look like the best references, but okay. But I guess just this is a broader story about the relationship between Hinduism and Buddhism. Now, what I know about this is that Buddhism was born out of the Shramana traditions. When the Buddha left his temple and went and became a wandering ascetic, he walked around the Ganges region of India, and he sort of joined these Shramanic sort of traditions. And there are a bunch of them. He had a couple of teachers, but these were all different schools of, I guess we could say, schools of spiritual practice, of ascetic spiritual practice that sort of rejected the Vedas, the sort of Vedic traditions. They were sort of establishing something new. They didn't believe in the authority of the Vedic scriptures. And I think what is it? Vedic is sort of like pre-Hinduism, I think. I'm not too sure about that, but let's read this article. It might enlighten me. Hinduism and Buddhism have common origins in ancient India, which later spread and became dominant religions in Southeast Asian countries, including Cambodia and Indonesia around the 4th century CE. Buddhism arose in the Gangetic plains of eastern India during the second urbanization. Hinduism developed as a fusion or synthesis of practices and ideas from the ancient Vedic religion and elements and deities from other local Indian traditions. So it's not that Hinduism came before it, it's sort of that the ancient Vedic religion came before it. So, yeah, so there's similar ideas in both. Both religions share a belief in karma and rebirth or reincarnation. They both accept the idea of spiritual liberation from the cycle of reincarnation and promote similar religious practices such as dhyana, meditation, samadhi, state of meditative consciousness, mantras, and devotions. Both religions also share many deities, so their nature is understood differently. See, now I need to grapple with the sort of Buddhist understandings of God, because I don't know. It seems to me that some of the Buddhas have a sort of mystical, godlike quality about them. But it's not God as we understand it in the West with Christianity, etc. Alright, so Buddhism rejects fundamental Hindu doctrines such as Atman, Brahman, and the existence of a creator God. Buddhism came up with not self, dependent arising as fundamental metaphysical theories. So, is it dependent origination, dependent arising? I think this is what Thich Nhat Hanh called interbeing. So, yeah, that's an area of Buddhism I want to get more into. I need to sort of understand that a bit more. But yeah, all right. So there's this relationship between Hinduism and Buddhism, and yeah, so Buddhism and the Jains, and who was the ghee-eating sort of religion? I can't remember. There's a few of them. There are other sort of shamanic traditions. They all sort of had a relationship with the Vedic religions. They sort of rejected parts of it. But I guess as Hinduism developed, as Buddhism developed, they sort of interacted with one another. So let's have a look here. Is there any overlap between the Hindu and Buddhist Āgamas? So we're making a specific claim about the Āgamas. And also, I think when we're looking at the word here, that's probably means something completely different to just these early Buddhist texts, these EBTs, where we had the what did they call them? The Pali Nikayas and the Chinese Āgamas. So there's 4 Pali Nikayas and Āgamas. So I don't know how many of each are up. All right, let's have a look. What we know for sure is there is a relationship between Buddhism and Hinduism. And we've already answered this one here. What are the 4 Nikayas and what are the 5 Āgamas? So I'm going to look these up and see if I can find more information. Let's have a look. 4 Nikayas, foundational collections. Yeah, these are ones talked about up here. So 4 Nikayas. That 4 number seems pretty solid. 5 Āgamas. Foundational group of 28, often grouped into 5 sets of 5. Oh, okay. So the 28 Saivagamas. What is this? Where is this coming from? Classification of the Āgamas. Okay, so we go back to Wisdom Library, they have another page here. I think it might be referencing a text. Alright, so classification of the Agamas. Saiva Agamas. So these are the Indian Agamas, I think they might be. Alright, I'm not going to get too bogged down in this. But suffice it to say, yeah, if we're going to do a proper summary here, we'll just say that the Āgama are early Buddhist texts. And of these early Buddhist texts, the first four Pali Nikayas and the corresponding Chinese Āgamas have some significance. Right. And I think wasn't there a brief description of what was contained in the Āgamas? Probably in the PDF. So I think I closed it, but that's okay. What I might do is leave that there. I'm pretty happy with that one. Yeah, I find that sometimes just trying to find the thread of things can be a little bit tricky, but I think we got there in the end.